Go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 5 of Backyard Quarterbacks. My name is Adam. We have Ryan in the other Florida State gear, Tyler in the Gator gear. We're going to break down this week's games. Good weekend for some of us, awful weekend for another. And then FSU was on a bye this week. So luckily for me and Hartle, impossible to lose on a bye.
Yeah.
So we'll hop onto it. If you can, it helps us out. We appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. We do weekly videos. We try to upload them around the same time, but we've been pretty consistent. This is the 5th week in a row that we've been doing it. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Just a bunch of guys that have been friends that love talking about football, good, bad, or indifferent. So we'll hop into it. Like we said, FSU Bye. Nothing to talk about there. Good thing that we couldn't lose. I think the only thing I wanted to bring up with FSU is just saw some more stuff on Twitter over the weekend and through the week, people, wondering whether Travis Hunter is going to, is he still coming? Like he's still, visiting these other places. And it seems like every week he puts out a tweet where it's like, he's got the lock emoji, right? Locked in, like FSU committed. I don't know what else he can do to reinforce that. One of the FSU pages I follow on Instagram did like a Q&A. And he kind of was saying the same thing, like, what else can this kid do, to let you guys know that he's, coming to Florida State other than what he's done? Hartle, did you see any of that on Twitter or anything like that?
I don't know too much in the end. I'm not on any message boards at all, but my interpretation was it was just kind of like an unofficial visit. It might have went with a friend type thing, but he went to the University of Georgia. Pictures, on him on the sideline, stuff like that. But I'm not even worried about it. But of course, him being locked and then going to somewhere else, which shouldn't be too far from where he's already at now. I think Twitter sphere blew up with it, and their Georgia fans are pretty excited. Number 1 in the country. Come on, let's do this. Let's do this.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you got to think that they got the momentum to swing kids right now. But, I mean, you never know. These big-time athletes, they get a chance to be courted. And it's like, let me go around and take my visits.
Yeah.
So if you really are truly committed, why not just go around there and take a trip, go watch a good football game. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, dude, if I'm 17 or 18 years old and every top school in the nation wants me, why wouldn't I go and get wined and dined and, hang out at like some of the most prestigious and coolest college football environments in the country?
It's not teams playing each other. I mean,
yeah. Who wouldn't go to that as an all expense paid trip, regardless if you're 17 or, like us, like, old people. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm not buying into it. I mean, like I said, I don't think there's much more else he can do. It seems like he's locked in. I did see something where he was talking. He said, he's like, my mom told me, like, once I commit, I'm committed. I can't back out. Like, that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just hoping he stays true to that. Hartle or Tyler, anything else like FSU related you guys want to talk about? I think I did see we won a women's soccer match over the weekend. So that was like a big moral victory for us. We don't get a lot of wins. So,
yeah,
that was good.
They are the storied program right now for women's soccer. They're top notch. I mean, they don't have the history like North Carolina. I really don't know myself too much about women's soccer, but our coach, they're basically saying like we're endangered of losing him for him to leave and go coach the USA women's team. Like he's superb.
Yeah. So I guess, Tyler, if it's all right with you, let's get your blessing. You want to start with Florida and we can sulk and, either grovel or cry with you. And then we'll end on the high of everyone's week, the Jaguars down in London at Tottenham. You cool with that?
Yeah, let's drown in sorrows to start out so that we can end on a high note.
All right. So I wrote a couple things here. Obviously, we'll dig into it. Florida down at LSU in Louisiana. Final score 42-49. LSU was getting plus 12. So UF, you guys were favored by 12. We may have mentioned, I know we mentioned it last week in the episode before we closed out. It closed at 10.5, and maybe what I saw was 12. But again, that could have moved from the last time we saw it or whatever. So yeah, that's like the basic. I wrote some other stuff down, but Tyler, just from watching it, roller coaster of a game, man, like ups and downs. Obviously it ended not the way you wanted the outcome. One of the things I think that may have been a big story that maybe overshadowed, maybe not for Florida fans, but Ed Ogeron, he's out after this season. So heard a interview from him talking about, he's gave it his all, just don't have the momentum that he's had, the past couple of years, haven't gotten the wins. They're parting ways on good terms. He's not mad. It's not like they fired him and said, you can't coach the rest of the season. So it'll be interesting to see who they get. I know we've kind of joked about him a few times on this podcast. Lane Kiffin, He's one of the favorites that I saw. I think that would be a huge job for him. Not really sure who else, huge names out there, but I mean, it's LSU. It's a storied program. They just won that national championship, I think, in 2018. So, but what were your thoughts on the game? Obviously, the outcome wasn't, good, but what do you think watching it? We recurring theme, we talk about AR-15. So what are your thoughts on that, Tyler?
Obviously, very frustrated. As a frustrating loss. LSU just does not look like we looked, this season like a pretty good team. We lost to two really good teams. So even with the two losses, we're probably out of it for the Eastern Division, but it still looked promising for the season. So to lose to a team at LSU that looked like it was reeling, the rumors were there before that Ogeron was gone pretty much this year. It was almost foregone conclusion. That's why they came out and said that they're parting ways after he just beat Florida at home. Typically coach doesn't win and then gets fired. So, or, resigns or whatever. So just to lose that game is very frustrating. Again, just like last year when we lost to an LSU that we had no business losing to. I don't know what it is about LSU that has our number. But they do. They won 7 out of the last 10 games. Which, if it was a situation where, they were just always that much better than us and we were reeling, we were, not too good of a team. But a lot of those wins came when LSU was not really that strong of a team themselves. And even we had a more promising season, just like this year, just like last year. Obviously 2 years ago they had, seemed like they caught lightning in a bottle with
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, yeah. That team was just, incredible, that offense.
Dude, let me just stop real quick. Those receivers, it's Justin Jeffries, who's a star. He's like the third leading receiving yardage in the NFL since last year, and he was the only rookie in the top 5. Then Jamar Chase is showing out as a rookie with back with Joe Burrow. And then they had Trey Marshall Jr., who's a rookie also, but he's in Carolina and he's the third wide receiver, but holding his own pretty strong. Blown away with that team on paper, but go ahead.
Yeah. Right. And just if you go back and watch his games, it was like Joe Burrow just couldn't miss. Last year, didn't need big running wide open guys. So that was an incredible offense. One we won't really see too often again, in my opinion. But to lose this game this week, that was just, it's inexcusable. I'm not the type of guy who is one to want to talk about firing coaches. But that defensive performance was pathetic. We've been good against the run all year. Obviously, their running back, he's a good, strong running back. But
Davis Price.
Was that? Yeah, Davis Price.
Yeah.
Davis Price. But we couldn't stop him, when we needed to. And, I think the only bright spot is that while he did make mistakes, Anthony Richardson did start to look like the quarterback we thought he was when he played in those first 2 games of the season. So to me, he's got to be the starter going forward. I don't know it's not like Emory Jones is going out there and lighting it up and protecting the football. Like, he's turning it over a lot. So what more mistakes is he going to make that would offset that big playability that Anthony Richardson brings, to not just have him the starter and then we, for the rest, we're already out of the East. There's just no way we can win it now. Mm-hmm. So put him in there, let him get his, let him grow, because he doesn't, to me, look like a guy who's going to have a tough time and then get down on himself. He looks like a guy that's got plenty of confidence that he's going to go out there and he's just going to improve and get better by getting out and actually playing. And then, we've got that big playability, that big play run threat that the teams have to watch out for. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But
yeah, I mean, this is his chance to put a resume together and go to a national championship winning team next year, right?
Yeah,
what AR-15 is doing.
At least on for the offensive side, having an offensive type of a championship type offense.
Yeah,
so we'll have to see who we get back and what the defense is going to look like next year. But the defense has got to step it up. So we just can't be run on like that. And our defensive backs are kind of, it seems like we're letting up the big plays a lot when we really need it.
Was it not the same play over and over? Just a quarterback option, and every time they threw it, it looked like he was either going to run with it or hand it off. And then when he did hand it off, he was throwing it every time or doing a pump fake. So it was just like, I mean, it was just a read option every single play.
Yeah, and we just couldn't stop it.
Yeah. So you mentioned their running back. So Davis Price, 36 rushes, 287 yards, 3 total touchdowns from rushing, and then that's an average of 8 yards a carry. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah. When you guys are as good of a team as you are, I just don't see how you let that happen. I don't know. I didn't look at the splits from first to second half, but I don't know how you don't make an adjustment, especially if you're Dan Mullen and you're that good of a team. Like, stack the box.
I don't know if y'all saw the clip, but there was some clip where Dan Mullen was just laying into Grantham, going for quite a while, but he had his mask up, so you couldn't really see anything about what he might be saying, but he's really chewing him out. But in his interview afterwards, he's still, seems like he's behind him. So I don't think any changes are coming, at least not right now. So, which I don't know that changes right now would be, the best thing for us. But at the end of the season, we should at least be going out there and seeing like what other options are there out there.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like since he's been here, that's been a big problem, is that we have a good defense. We have good athletes on defense, but then there's always a game or two a season where it's like, what is going on with this defense? Like, we just cannot, we cannot stop them when we really need it. And it'd be one thing if it was like just against an Alabama or this fantastic offense, but it's against a team that, this just, it's not a juggernaut. So I don't understand why we would, why we're struggling like that every single year.
Place was rocking, just kind of like the Kentucky game, but this team was going in. That's 3-3. I think my take I did the condensed game. Just a quick question from Tyler. That first Emory Jones interception, was that off the Florida receiver's hands, and it popped up, or was it the defender?
I believe it was Whittemore, but if I remember right, I think it was behind him a little bit, but I could be thinking of a different.
Gotcha. Because that one was kind of like it popped up in the air, and somebody just kind of got underneath it. Because it looked like the 2 interceptions I saw from AR was definitely probably a reason why he hasn't been starting or not been playing that. Both were under pressure, and it was just like the last second thought, and just he threw it, and it was like probably instantly regretted it. Like, take the sack, throw it away if you're out the pocket or whatever. But those were 2 big mistakes. I mean, I agree
with that too. Like, Anthony Richardson's interceptions looked way worse than Emory's. But Emory's had some pretty bad ones this year too, where you're scratching your head like, what were you thinking there? So he seems like he's made better decisions as he's gotten more playing time. So maybe if Richardson had more playing time to this point, now granted he did hurt himself, so that's there were 2 games there at least that he could not have.
Right.
But those are things that hopefully will just come with experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and another thing too for me is that when you look at the stats for I think Emory's completion percentage was actually higher, but their numbers were like right there about the same.
Yeah, so
at least for passing.
Yeah, I have it, Tyler. Anthony Richardson, 10 for 19, 167 yards. Emory Jones, 12 for 19, 161 yards. They both had 2 picks. Anthony had 3 touchdowns. Emory had 1.
Yeah.
Emory had the Hail Mary at the end of in the second half.
Yeah.
How big was that?
Yeah, that was crazy too. That they just the announcers kept talking about how like they didn't make a play on the ball, and it's like, well, they weren't really in position. Like it was weird that they were.
Everybody was kind of
still out of position on that play.
Yeah.
Because the ball was like way over to the sideline, and they were kind of several feet off of it. And there was actually one player that looked like
he was behind the receiver.
He was facing like the back of the end zone when Shorter was catching the ball. So that guy looked like way lost. So I don't really know.
Yeah.
It was a weird play. It was it's exciting and and much needed right there at the end of the half. But to me, it's more about the eye test. When you see Anthony Richardson in there, when he had those 2 really bad interceptions, but the rest of it was like, man, he looks electric. He looks, so dangerous.
Yeah, I think a couple of them, like I said, I watched the condensed one, and I think there was his decision, or even, I mean, obviously they have plays where, okay, you're going back, setting like you're going to pass, and you just take off. And there was a couple times where I was expecting him just to take off, and he threw in the pocket, and like there was a replay, and I actually thought that he like faked like he was going to run, which they do. He'll kind of step in it and then throw. But I guess I don't know. They showed the replay, and he didn't even do that. But like watching him, like I just felt like he was going to dart at any second.
Yeah.
So he does have that where, kind of like with LSU, where they were able to do that read action fake, and then when they did throw it, the secondary was kind of caught off guard, because they're trying to stop the run, period.
Yeah.
But then when you got AR-15 back there, he gives that same problem. Like, and they did the read option with him a couple times too.
They're actually the offense. I don't even think I really can complain about the offense, because I mean, what did we score? 42 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you should win, especially against LSU. You should win if you score 42 points. So and that's with 4 interceptions or 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions. Four picks.
A pick 6, and I know a couple of those interceptions, they were already like on a 25-yard line ready to score. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I mean, to do that and then still score 42 points.
In a bad position on a couple of those, but
yeah.
Help your defense out, offense. Come on, it'd be a win right there,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't some exciting plays. I thought one of the plays that I thought was just crazy was it. I don't know if it was designed to look specifically this way, but it almost looked like it was designed to look like a broken play. And then it left our wide receiver wide open. But what it was is it looked like they broke, and then Richardson looked like he was wanting to hand off, but the running back went the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he like turned to go run the opposite direction, but it was a fake step back and throw it down. I don't remember exactly where he threw it, ended up throwing it, but it was a pretty big gain.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like the offensive scheme, like those plays, I thought was really impressive. The Whittemore pass to Emory Jones. So it was like the quarterback throwback.
Yeah.
Was that a
option? Was that a wide receiver throwing at? It wasn't a running back, was it?
Whittemore. Yeah, Whittemore, the wide receiver.
Okay. Like I said, I watched the condensed. They come by so fast.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, was that the running back or receiver?
Yeah.
I saw Emory Jones catch that one.
So I thought we were really creative on offense, which I thought was fun. So for me, the rest of the season now is just hopefully that we get Richardson out there, at least get him a lot more playing time so that we can really develop him, because I believe he's the future quarterback for us. And Emory Jones, I would assume then would transfer, but if not, then hopefully we would have a good backup.
Well, speaking of that, Adam, you sent the clip from Twitter. I guess they were asking Anthony Richardson. I guess I want Tyler to answer this, but my take on it was kind of like, I don't think he understood the question, or maybe it came off like, well, maybe, I don't know. I'm a Gator now, but I'm not really.
It's hard to understand. It's hard to take the right interpretation of what he says when it's in print.
Yeah.
We didn't see the conversation or hear the conversation, but that's not exciting. I don't read that and go like, oh, this is totally fine. Nothing to worry about there. So, we'd have to, I guess, actually have to hear like how that conversation went to kind of really be able to interpret it, what he's saying there. But it's not, I can't really speak on that for now. I'm a Gator. I mean, that's, not something a Gator fan wants to hear. When I hear that, I say, I'm thinking
Cam Newton.
Start him. Put him at starter.
Yeah.
Because
and Tyler, Tyler,
I don't want another Cam Newton situation.
Right. You specifically mentioned like we don't want another Cam Newton situation. He's got to be the starter going forward. And a couple things like you hinted on, like he has to be the starter going forward, especially for a couple things. The first is Emory Jones or him are not like way better or way worse than than each other. So I don't think that you're going to be losing about a lot of offensive production over the next, however many games are left with starting Anthony Richardson. And obviously this season, I mean, it's done for y'all, right? Like there would have needed to be a miracle for y'all to make the playoff. Right. Now, I mean, I don't think
we would needed a miracle just to even make the SEC championship game.
Salvage with beating number 1 Georgia.
Yeah.
And then Florida State beat your rival.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, it's like, can we beat Georgia, which does not look promising.
Right.
And so
it doesn't look like anyone will.
Yeah, no, I can honestly say, like, to me, this looks like it's gonna be Georgia's year because I don't see anybody. Now, granted, I don't watch closely all the other conferences, but I don't see anybody else out there this year that looks like, at least to this point, looks like they're going to challenge Georgia for that championship.
Yeah, so I think you guys just have to go with Anthony Richardson, get him as many reps for the remainder of this year. You want him coming into next year knowing he's going to be the starter. You want him to have confidence, a lot of games and repetitions under his belt. So, you guys should be planning for next year. And if Mullen is smart, which I think he is, that's what he should be planning as well. Like, hey, we had a couple of these games that didn't go our way, and then now we lose to LSU. That's pretty brutal. So I think you just
aside from Georgia, which doesn't look like nobody would pick us in that game regardless who's at quarterback. So
right,
you would expect that we're not going to win that game.
I'd pick you if you're
every other
20.
game we should be favored in, regardless. So what'd you say?
I'll pick y'all if you're like plus 21, plus 22 and a half. Or
okay, you'll take
that.
The points.
Yeah. So rough weekend for y'all, man. Yeah. No one saw that coming.
Ironically, like I wasn't surprised. Like just because of our history with LSU and the way that they've had our number these last, I only gave the last 10 years, but really you can go the last 20 in LSU. I think it's basically the same. It might be a little bit better.
It's not an easy place to go in. And all those players are athletes. It's not like they just suck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. They're very, but they were depleted too. Like this is not like a fully healthy team. So, they had a lot of injuries.
Well, they have the number 1 locker room and they have the number 1 locker room and football facility. So they got to be good.
Yeah.
They have you on that scene there, like indoor. Oh my gosh. It's like, state of the art. Like, yeah.
I think
take
Florida's
naps in their locker room and all this kind of stuff. And
Florida's the only major SEC team, I believe, that's really lacking in the amenity section or the facility section.
Right.
For their football program.
Before we go on to the Jags, any other college football games or anything you saw or you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to bring up the whole Lane Kiffin and Tennessee thing. Did y'all see how that transpired?
Yeah, that was ugly.
I was surprised they didn't call the game.
Well, they so what they didn't get the 4th down. And
They
so
got it.
then
It was so
Tennessee,
close. It was like
yeah.
4th and 25. They got
But I
about
don't think it was a
24 and
bad
a half
call.
yards.
I think they got it
Yeah,
right. You know?
right.
And so then they started chunking stuff on the field to the point where, like
Delayed the
the
game for
announcers were
20
talking like, I
minutes.
would take my guys off the field. I wouldn't even bring them back out on the field. But then somehow with like less than a minute, they managed to, so they all got back out on the field. Then they stopped them. And then Tennessee ended up scoring to win the game, right? And how it ended up?
Tennessee lost.
Tennessee lost?
Yeah. So they actually escorted all the cheerleaders off, all the band members off. Basically, every college student other than the football players stayed on the field. It was a 20-minute thing where they had to clean up the field, and they were still like throwing stuff every now and then. They had 3 timeouts. It was under 2 minutes left. They stopped them 3 straight times, used all their timeouts. They got a good return to bring it back to like the 45, almost the 50-yard line. They got it close, but they ended up, going for 4th down, had to go for it and didn't get it.
Didn't get it. Okay.
And lost. So Lane Kiffin, they start throwing shit again after that. So there's one part where he was talking to the ref.
After that,
he was talking to the ref, and he was just like shaking his head, basically saying, "Call the game," And then he turns around, and a golf ball like just goes by him, and he picks it up and turns around and shows it to the ref. Yeah. Crazy. It's just a crazy scene.
A golf ball. I mean, if you have a golf ball with you to throw at a football game, it's almost like you were planning on doing something like
Maybe
that.
They went around 8 a.m., got hammered. He left the golf balls in his pocket as he walked into start tailgating, continued drinking. Never thought they would take out the golf ball. And once everybody's throwing, he's like, "Oh, what about one of these? Watch this."
Right. Freaking idiots, man. Yeah, it's like that story could have went a lot worse. Like Lane Kiffin gets hit in the head with golf ball and dies. You know what I mean? Like something crazy.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, that kid's a murderer and his life's done. And so crazy game.
I just don't know how you don't end that game at that pace, because it would have penalized the Tennessee fans. It would have been a lesson. The mighty SEC, who cares? A lesson around college football that's unacceptable.
Right.
Which now a part it will be. Somebody's going to throw like a napkin and they're going to call the game. Everybody's going to be pissed off.
Well, what's going to happen is what Tennessee, the stadium itself, is going to be fined. But I mean, that doesn't do anything to those people and it was so much. There's no way they could ever, get all those people that were actually throwing stuff. But
yeah. I mean, what's Rocky Top? 100-something thousand capacity.
110, something crazy.
Yeah. I think
huge.
Michigan's the only one. 500 more or something like that.
Right. So that was crazy. I do remember seeing that now that you guys mentioned it, specifically the golf ball. All right, y'all want to move on to the Jaguars?
Happiness.
Let's do it.
Right. Yeah. Now
I called it. I told you guys.
Yeah, you did.
We're gonna go down. We're gonna go over to London and across the pond. We're gonna get ourselves a win.
Yeah.
You sound like you're from London. All right. So we got Miami Dolphins at Jacksonville and Tottenham, like we mentioned. London, final score 2023. Jags first win. And I can't even, I think I saw something that said 399 days.
Oh.
Yeah. 20
Did y'all see that?
So, no, I didn't see that. I just knew it was, 19.
I think, it was like something crazy, but over 20 games. Trevor Lawrence, speaking of percentage, 25 for 41, comes out to 60% even, 319 yards. I think that's the most he's thrown in a game.
Yeah, first 300 yarder.
One touchdown.
First of many.
Yeah, right. First of many for the next 10 years. No interceptions. Quarterback rating of 93.4. My big takeaway from the game: Marvin Jones finally stepping up. This is what we brought him here for. 7 receptions, 100 yards. With a touchdown. And then the other thing we kind of talked about this also, kicking problems all season. Lamborghini, Josh Lambo, struggling. I don't even think he's with the team. I don't know what.
He just got released today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not see that.
Yeah.
So I know he had some stuff going on before that, he was on the injury list and he wasn't injured, so I don't know what's going on there. But 3 field goal attempts, 3 made by Matthew Wright, including the most electric one that we had, the 54-yard game winner to end it. We end the losing streak. What do you guys think about the game?
Well, kind of down on that first half. So the first half, watching it, like, we talked about it. I told y'all that I had to leave. We were going over to a different location to watch the second half of it. So I had left in the last 30 seconds thinking that, okay, well, the half's over. And then talking to y'all like, well, that looked terrible. Thank God that the score is what it is. But in terms of actual play, it looked terrible. And then I followed that up with like, wait a second, where did we score this touchdown? Like, what happened? Because, I missed it. And then, but that second half was a fun football game to watch. And then obviously the end result was very positive for us. So.
Yeah. Hartle, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, a win. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we look like we could have won the last few games. So to jump the hurdle to actually make not one field goal, not 2 field goals, but 3 field goals. The first team since 1962 that didn't have a made field goal through 5 weeks of the NFL. Look, we can make field goals now. Like, wow, we might add another win or 2. We don't want to get too far away from the top 5 pick, but yeah, I don't know. James Robinson, like, I felt like he looked good. I mean, it wasn't a huge game or anything like that, but I felt like he was effective. Like you said, Marvin Jones and the punt returner I don't know.
Agnew,
yeah.
I think let's keep him out there. I enjoy him with the ball, the ball in his hands. He's pretty electric. So defense obviously did their thing. I guess it was Tua's first game back from being injured. I think he was out for about 3 weeks, maybe even more. I think he ended up going on the IR. But it was his first game back. He still hasn't been impressive at all in the NFL terms. Like, I mean, we're sitting here giving Trevor Lawrence a hard time. I mean, that's a night and day difference between those 2 quarterbacks. And I don't know if it's a lingering injury from the major hip injury that he had, compared to Bo Jackson's, career-ending hip injury. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to harp on. I feel bad for the Miami Dolphins because we got enough damn problems to look at on our own team. But it was a good win, and I enjoyed it.
Agree. Yeah, just to put that, so Tua was 33 for 47, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So a lot better on paper.
Yeah,
very good stats,
yeah, one of his better games. Maybe the best game.
That might be one of his better, if not. But I agree. Like, up until this point, some injuries, but I mean, they get rid of Ryan Tannehill for this guy, right? And then Tannehill's like balling out, and Tua hasn't really done much for them. I mean, they got the same record as us now. We're both 1-4. So whether that was worth it or what was this, like his 3rd or 4th year in the league now? Maybe like 4th.
Tua?
Yeah,
he was a rookie last year.
Was he? Okay, all right. So
but he sat out a whole year at Alabama with the injury.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then he ended up leaving after it and got drafted, and
so he's still young. Obviously he can improve, but I agree. Like, he hasn't helped them out. They haven't really won much, so they got the same record as us. James Robinson, 17 rushes for 73 yards. Only a 4.3 average, which is super low for him compared to right. So highlight of the game, in my opinion, was Matthew Wright, the field goal kicker. Hopefully, he can put together a few games with some field goals. It was electric there.
What was his longest? Was it 61?
That game?
50,
this past game.
54.
54.
I think that was the game winner.
54 was the long. Okay, the game.
Yeah, 54 is the long. Of course, leave it to the Jags to wait to go to London to win our first damn game.
Yeah, that's going to be a trivia question like 20 years from now. What was the first win for Trevor Lawrence? Where was it located at? Because I think all the Europe games has been in a different stadium, and it was the first year playing in.
Was it Wembley?
The ones previously were Wembley. This was Tottenham, I think.
So I think Shad UConn owns Wembley then.
I think you're right.
I think he at least made a bid for it, whether or not he ended up owning it. Or
We'll look it up and we'll put it in the description and let y'all know. Just look down the description, tag the bell, the subscribe, and see the real answer. We'll get it to you.
There you go.
Hell yeah. I didn't write it down, so just from memory. So looking forward to next week. FSU goes into UMass or we play UMass.
Homecoming here.
Yeah, home. So yeah, we don't go, but yeah, we're playing UMass. I think I don't know if we mentioned it in this group or someone else, but we're favored by like a lot, like over 20.
I got UMass plus 28.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think we'll take care of business. I think the team's kind of riding on a high, but like I said, there's at any time reality can sink in. And we're back to like, damn, we're really not that good. But I think we'll take care of business. Not Florida taking care of business to Vandy 48-0, but yeah.
Right.
I think we'll win.
Do you know anything about like what's UMass's record or anything?
I think there's one of the worst teams out there.
Really?
I don't know about this year, but I know are like, I think Willie Taggart's first offensive coordinator left and ended up being the head coach there. And like, they didn't even win a game that first year. I don't even know if he's still there. I don't even know his damn name. But
I think in the first podcast I messed up and said that McElwain went to UMass, but I think it was Central Michigan that McElwain actually is coaching at, or at least was right after he left.
Yeah, I think I saw a comment like that.
The Minutemen? Is that UMass Minutemen?
That sounds right, yeah.
And then the only thing I even know about them was when they went undefeated in the NCAA basketball. They ended up losing, but I think it was Marcus Camby was their big guy. But okay, that's my UMass. The only thing I know about UMass.
Yeah, so we're favored by 28. Whether or not we win by that much, we'll see. I think this might be since that Notre Dame game, because going into the first game of the season, you don't know. You know, your expectations are high. That was a very close game. Since that game, like this is like I'm excited to see us, maybe put up some good numbers. Like I don't feel like this is a game we lose. We could be talking a different story in a week from now, but it's nice going into a game where it's like, I mean, you'd have to look back. God knows how long for a game that we're favored by that much, or like a really comfortable lead. Yeah. So it's nice to get hopefully an easy win on the schedule.
Yeah, it's just funny in terms of like, I'm sure Mullen now is probably going to be on the hot seat. You know what I'm saying? Like losing 3 games is just so unacceptable. And, Florida State's been this team since 2017 that's majority under 500. And we're excited. It's just crazy because if you look when Florida, I guess before that Kentucky game, and then where we're at Florida State, it's almost like everything switched. Now Florida State's happy and Florida's now kind of almost in the panic mode. I don't think you're there yet. I mean, I think you're there if you lose 52-10 against Georgia. If y'all just come out looking just nothing.
Although, I mean, to be honest, Kentucky was 30-13, so it wasn't even a game for them. So,
yeah, I mean, to me, that's probably a competitive score right now against Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. With how few points they give up. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Even though granted, the Vandy's and a couple other the teams. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Tyler, I don't want you guys to be awful. I don't wish bad on y'all, but that Florida State game later this year is going to be like kind of fun to watch.
We might have
that could be the straw that breaks Dan Mullen's back. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. If we lost, so assuming that we didn't lose to Georgia, so that'd be 4 losses, and if we lost to Florida State and we had 5 losses in a season, then I would say, okay, Dan Mullen's seat's probably pretty hot. But right now, the majority of the heat is on Todd Grantham. Most people are just ready to see him go, and let's see us get somebody else in there. So For me with Dan Mullen, when you look at, we just had Muschamp and then we had McElwain, and it's just a totally different feeling. Like, even though I think Muschamp even had an 11-2 season, and we we weren't too far out of the playoffs when we went in that season, or I think maybe it was 11-2. Yeah, I think it was 11-2 after we lost to Louisville. But to me, it's just felt different. Like, we feel like a good program that's right there on the verge. Whereas even in the best years with McElwain, I think McElwain won the East twice. It just never felt good. Like, you didn't feel like we could really go play with anybody. Felt kind of like it was almost a sham, smoke screen that got us there or something. Whereas, Mullen, I feel like we are at least a good competitive team ready to compete with the top teams. It's just that we have these games every season that's like, what the hell was that? Like, how do we lose this game?
So before I joined our podcast, actually it was like probably 15 minutes prior, I ended up getting it was like a 2.5 minute long, basically Mullen after every loss since 2018. And those 2018 losses and the 2019, like, he's encouraging. He likes the direction of the program. He's very positive. And then as the video goes to 2021, I mean, the answers that he was given, like, you're just like, do you feel good about having a bye week before playing Georgia? I don't know, ask me again in 2 weeks, I'll let you know. I mean, it didn't look good. Come on, it's after every loss, beginning of his career. I mean, you can understand it. Editing makes it look worse than what it is. But it to me, it was just like, damn.
So he actually was asked that on, so I want to say it was after the Kentucky, I want to say it was a Kentucky game that we lost. And he was asked that in his post-game interview about how, or it might even be, how they do the interview like a couple of days later, like after the games. So it might have been then, but he was asked specifically about how, when you came in your first year, first 2 years, you were talking a lot about this, I don't care if we're playing checkers, like, I want to crush you. Like, you had this mentality, whereas you don't really hear you speaking on that as much. And so it's a little bit different. Yeah.
You challenged everybody with a thumb war.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. I remember. Yeah. You're right. Because of the thumb thing. So he was specifically asked about that. He's like, trust me. He's like, I'm still like, I want to win. Like, I want to beat you in everything. I'm super competitive, no matter what it is. I don't care how old I am. If you say you want to race, and I'm going to try my best to beat you. And so he talks about it still there. But I think what it is when he came in, he knew that, well, I've got to pass for a couple of years because, this isn't my program, and I'm coming in and turning things around.
But
but now there's no
damn
excuse
good
on
job with
it's
people too.
Well, he flipped it quick.
Yeah,
he flipped it quick, but we're still there though. Like, we're not better than where we were just a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you landed gold with Kyle Trask. Nobody predicted that. I mean, thought that he would even be on the field.
Well, when he came in like cleanup work or whatever, like, nothing he did ever indicated that when he got a starting job, he was going to look like he did.
Right.
Like, that was such a shock when he came in that Kentucky game.
Right.
And then, for him to just continue it on the next year. That was crazy.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Both programs, the future is so unknown, so unexpected. Because with Florida, you got, like, maybe there's a dark trail for you up ahead, which you would hate to see. But then polar opposite, AR-15 comes alive. Even if he has trouble this year, let's just say he throws a couple more picks, but you keep him out there, he learns from his mistakes.
This is the year to do it.
Sprinkling in, he's going to have these Heisman plays that you're like, oh my gosh, only he could do that. Which, I mean, he's already proven. now he's going to do them against SEC teams. If he pulls a stunt out on Georgia, like,
yeah,
everything blows up. Everything's good. So it's very interesting how it can go for Florida State. I mean,
yeah,
like I said, I mean, even next year we're looking at the same, 500, maybe below, maybe above if we're happy. I mean,
and I'll say that too. Like thinking back to those seasons under Muschamp and McElwain, when once you got to a certain point, you're just like, we're not really gonna, like, have nothing that I've seen makes me feel like we're gonna improve throughout the year. In fact, I feel like under McElwain we got worse. So it's like we kind of almost locked up the SEC kind of early in the season, and then it came down to the Georgia game, and somehow, I remember Kelvin Taylor going off on Georgia that one game. I don't even know if we completed a pass. It was something nuts. Like, we completed like 2-3 passes, but Kelvin Taylor had this great game. And so somehow miraculously we beat Georgia, but like the rest of the end of that season looked pretty terrible. And then, of course, playing Bama in the SEC championship games. But it was like there was nothing about under those programs that made me feel good throughout the end of the season that we could improve, that we were likely to improve throughout the end of the season. But at least right now, with Anthony Richardson, hoping that he really starts to become the starter, hopefully, against Georgia, and it just starts from there.
I hate to see him gain confidence, like let him catch fire, and it's just like,
yeah.
Scary.
So it's like, that's what when I see him out there. I was a little after Kentucky, so I don't know if he was still kind of nursing that injury or was hesitant because of it, or just, Kentucky's defense was just like, we are not going to let him beat us with his legs. And that was just the way to approach him. But seeing him last week, that looked more like the Richardson we saw at the beginning of the season. And so that gave me encouragement to think that maybe he can really show out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then going into next year. If he shows out at the end of the year, then he'll be, one of the Heisman favorites going into next year.
It's not a tough schedule. I mean, after Georgia, Mizzou, South Carolina, you got a D2 looking school. I can't remember who it is. Obviously, Florida State. Jordan Travis ain't there. We're done the rest of the season. One injury there, we're looking really bad. So, I feel like you're going to finish up strong. It's just hitting that 4-4 after Georgia. Just the team quit on you. That's all we talk about with Florida State and the Jaguars. Are they quitting on you? Are you going to have that embarrassing moment of Willie Taggart?
Well, I feel like you're seeing that too more and more now with these college players are becoming more and more, and I don't disagree with their logic, but these guys have a chance to go to the pros and become more and more like, hey, the season's over. I'm looking on in my career, after college.
As they should. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to risk an injury when you have like potential generational wealth that changes your life, your parents' life, your kids, your grandkids. You know what I mean? Like, that's not
all you
worth
have to do
it,
is get on an NFL roster, and then your life has changed.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
500,000
or could be changed. If you go out there and then you blow all that money, then obviously you're not back to where you were. But you at least have an opportunity for your life to be completely changed just getting on the roster. So making sure you don't get hurt. I don't necessarily
when you're
disagree
like
with
mathematically,
it sucks.
Yeah, especially when you're mathematically like you can't get to the national championship game. What am I, busting my ass for here? Risking injury, not only in like practice, but games that don't matter. Bowl games before the playoffs, they meant, something. You'd go to the bowl games, you get like a care package, like all these goodies. It was a fun, you get travel. These kids have smartened up. They're like, I don't want to go to the Chick-fil-A like bowl, or like the Ford Auto Bowl or what, these shitty bowls. They're just not doing it no more, and that's their choice. I agree. So I will say, like, as we're talking, over the last like few minutes about Florida State and like Dan Mullen, you got to also think Dan Mullen's like, all right, as a Gator fan, I know it's frustrating for us to lose. You're invested, right? You've bought some merchandise. You come to a few games a year. You watch
do a
us on
podcast,
TV,
whatever.
You do a podcast. Imagine you got to look at it from his standpoint. This guy's spending 80 hours a week busting his ass. Like no one thinks he wants to lose. Now, whether he's getting the job done or whether the defensive coordinator should have been replaced or should be replaced, that's a different conversation. But I don't think anyone should be like doubting his want or will to win.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing, as a Gator fan, you guys have been there in the past where Florida State's going to be really good. And you guys are like, yeah, I'm just hoping, we win a few games this season. But for me and Hartle and Florida State fans coming into the season, and especially, since, like he mentioned, 2017, basically after that 2014 season, expectations aren't high. So you don't get, confidence build up, and you're not upset or surprised when you lose. You guys last year, we talked about it. You lost that game against Georgia in Jacksonville. This year, after the Alabama loss, barely.
Last year we won.
Do what?
Last year we beat Georgia.
Are you sure?
Don't you beat them every year?
No, I think 2 years ago we lost, but last year we won.
I thought it was. Y'all have computers in front of you. Look it up. But I thought that was a game y'all lost.
It's funny. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyhow, what I'm saying is, when you're highly ranked and you had a good season last year, and then you come into this year, you're expecting to do great things. Yeah, it sucks when you're losing these games. So it's just a completely different feel. Meanwhile,
we won 44-28 last year.
Okay, I must be thinking of the year before.
Yeah, because we played Bama in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And we played them closer than anybody. So we won
Trask and Pitt.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of the year before.
2 years ago, I think it was really bad.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of, the one prior to COVID. My bad. But yeah, so it's just different, like, sentiment and outlook on, whether you're going to be good. Obviously, me and Hartle would trade in a minute, like, if we could be as good as y'all right now, you know what I mean? But still, if we're thinking we're going to be a national contender and, we might have a chance to go to the playoff, of course we're going to be pissed when we lose 3-4 games, go in and lose to, LSU. So it's just a completely different mindset. But yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know that where we are right now is worse than the way most people projected us before the beginning of the season. Right. Who we lost to might have been different the way that they projected it, but
right.
I don't know that it's very different than what was thought going into the season. But when you play Alabama and you lose by 2, and Alabama's still looking like the number 1 team in the nation at the time, then
before they lose, you have,
you get those really high expectations for what the season could be, and that you're going to see Bama again in the SEC championship game.
Yep.
And that really it's just Georgia that you got to worry about. But then to lose to Kentucky, granted Kentucky's looks like a pretty good team this year. They're not just the old school Kentucky. And but then to lose to LSU, who was 3-3 going into that game and depleted, and it's just it's tough to get to this point of the season and be like, now we're just looking for pride,
right,
for the rest of the season. So, but you talked about one thing you talking about people questioning whether or not Dan Mullen really wants to win or whatever, and the silliness of a guy that's able to get to where he's gotten to, and even be able to question, like, how badly does that guy want to win? But one thing, when I was talking earlier about Grantham and him just getting into Grantham, when I see those plays, because Nick Saban really gets into his assistants too, and I see that and I always think, like, that's a grown man that he is yelling at. You know what I mean? Like, that would make it so hard for me to be a coach, just like to think that I'm a grown man and have my boss just like screaming at me like I'm just some kind, and I'm busting, these guys, they're busting their butt, they're doing their best, and then just to be yelled at like you're some dope,
right,
on live,
on like national television for millions to see.
Yeah, but like, he also would have been in sports his whole life, and like, I know us back then, like, you get yelled at, you don't think anything of it, but then you leave sports, you go into the corporate world, and just to think of like my boss just coming in and chewing me out and be like, well, I'm out, I'm done. Like, you're not going to talk to me that way.
We're throwing hands, or I'm quitting. What you pick, bro? You pick how this Monday's going to go.
Right, exactly. It's just so funny how sports is just so different that way.
It is. I agree. Hartle, who do the Jags got?
Bye week.
Amen.
Yep. Gators bye week too. Waiting on Georgia for
So I mean, it's gonna be a good week next week. Just a UMass talk.
Man, like a whole hour of just Florida State UMass.
I'm actually
have to wear some
we gotta
FSU
come
gear.
strong, Tucker, for maybe some non like game related stuff.
Yeah. We lose, we're not doing one.
Yeah. We're scrapping this whole thing. Before we leave the Dan Mullen thing, I think you trust him with quarterbacks. I think that's something you really can't question him. I mean, question his awkwardness, his social awkwardness. No, I mean he's a noob. He's just weird.
Yeah.
But when it comes to quarterbacks, I think if AR-15 is as good as he is, that we think and believe he can be, I think Dan understood the process. I think there's a reason why he wasn't out there. Of course, he got injured and this and that. But if you look in those early games, he didn't play a lot. He came in near the end of the games and whatnot.
Well, he had early drive, so that's the one thing about those, and because it was all FAU and his USF, so you're like, well, okay, that's what he looked like against those teams. But Emory was playing against those same teams and looked to struggle. And then Emory came in the third series on both those games, and it was, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is the same team that Emory Jones was just playing against. Because I mean, he made them look like they didn't belong on the field with him.
And Emory played a couple drives in the second half. I thought he was just thinking like, okay, AR took over. They started coming back. I'm like, oh wow, he came back. But when I watched the condensed game, Emory Jones continued to play in that second half. I mean, he had a few.
So Emory Jones, I forget. So Anthony Richardson had to go into the little injury tent.
Okay.
And Emory Jones came in. For
that,
that, but then he came right back out.
Came back.
And looked like whatever it was, like, wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Well, just saying, I think
the end of that game was Richardson's. It wasn't split time.
Just trying to close what I'm trying to say is you trust Mullen with quarterbacks. I don't think you can question it. I think there's a reason we hadn't seen him. Now that he is getting thrown out there, this is where you have to be careful with not hurting his confidence or getting him in predicaments. You're building from this, and that's what's the exciting part of it. I mean, because Dan's not going to just throw him out there and look stupid. Like, he's going to set him up to win.
He sees him every day. He sees him in practice. He saw him in training camp. And, guys grow throughout the season. And so, you might see something as a coach in training camp, and it's like, I need to see more to know that you're ready. And so that's why he's, waited. But for him to put him into that game at that point, and basically it was like his game once he put him in there.
You're taking over.
Yeah. But the only thing that's unfortunate really is, I would say that Dan Mullen, you got to trust Dan Mullen. However, it's the recent history of if Felipe Franks doesn't go down in that Kentucky game, we lose that Kentucky game and maybe never know what Trask can do.
Yeah, true.
So it's because of that recent history where you had this gem just sitting on the sidelines while week after week after week, Felipe Franks struggled, maybe made one good play, like great play or whatever, that somehow we ended up, winning these games. But, it's the fact that you had this guy on the sidelines and you were still continuing to play the other guy who was struggling.
We talked about it with Georgia and Justin Fields. Where he ended up transferring after that freshman year. And then when you see how the season played, it was kind of like, no, you'd probably rather have that Justin Fields guy. You probably should have made that decision. Yeah.
But was it Fromm, right? Fromm was still the quarterback.
Yeah, right.
So
Jake Fromm from State Farm.
He wasn't anywhere near as bad as what Felipe Franks was. Like, Fromm was still a good quarterback. He just had like moments maybe where Georgia fans were wanting him to be championship level and maybe he just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Whereas Felipe Franks is just like, dude's got all the tools, but why are you, 151 passing on the game after game after game?
Yeah.
With that cannon for an arm, and we had good wide receivers, so what's going on.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Trask proved it because he came right back. He came right in and, hitting all the receivers. And then our passing game looked incredible. And then the very next year, one of the best we've ever had. So, if not the best,
yeah.
All right, boys, you got anything else?
I think this is pretty good.
Yep.
Was the AR-15 special? Is that what we just did?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. What's the time on the recording, Hartle?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No worries. Well, everyone, thanks again for tuning into episode 5 of Backyard Quarterbacks. This has been Adam, Ryan, and Tyler. Please like, subscribe, comment. We'll be back next week. Only Florida State. So we'll sprinkle in some
we'll
other
have something
stuff.
to talk about though.
Yeah, right. We'll have some funny stories to sprinkle in, some stuff to fill the hour or whatnot. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.